And here we are. Hi, everybody. All the people in the chat room watching, my moderators working. I want to announce first of all, we're supposed to have two guests tonight. One had some mechanical problems with her computer and was unable to make it. And my one guest here is not at her best, so we're going to do this as best we can. If you have questions, please type them in the chat room, and Lady Boss will transmit them to me for our guest. This is Davina Cower, right?
Core, yes. Hi, everybody.
And why am I hearing all this? I don't want to hear myself. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. I got it. I had to fix it. Now, for some reason, I had that open twice. All right, so let's begin by letting the viewers know a little bit about you and your background, and why you're here today.
Yes, please, Deborah. Thank you for having me.
So you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Davina Kaur, and I'm the founder of Sexy Brilliant Global Revolution. And Sexy Brilliant comes across from my years of struggling with finding love, finding meaning, finding purpose, and a dating addiction. So, yes, actually, a dating addiction is possible. And it's important to know that an addiction can happen to anybody from any socioeconomic background, any gender, any ethnicity. I myself am born and raised in India, and I had an arranged marriage. And I got married to kind of because I was lonely. I did not know what I wanted. I also lacked confidence. So I gave into the family pressure of letting my parents help me find marriage, which is
How
what
old
a
were
woman.
you at that time?
I was about 24, 25. And because in my life I was always told that unless you fit in, unless you are thin, unless you are, you are kind of like, don't speak too much, don't laugh too much, don't be too fat, you're going to fit in and you're going to find the right man to love you. So my identity was based on having a relationship. So when my marriage ended, my arranged marriage ended, it was my world ended because I did not know what else to do. I had no identity. So it was very easy for me to fall into this dating addiction, as I mentioned. And through a lot of self-awareness, through a lot of personal growth, personal development, that I'm able to say that, you know what, I am not an addict, and recovery is possible. So
Tell me, I'm really curious. How does one become addicted to dating? Because, girl, I'm telling you, that is like, I would rather just like watch paint dry sometimes than go on a date. These guys are such knuckleheads.
well, so what is an addiction? An addiction is anything which is helping us feel good about ourselves from the outside. So in this time, we're in 2019, where we live, and each and every one of us is addicted to something or the other. It's hard not to be addicted to something or the other.
Oh,
Look around you. Phone, social media, shopping, sex, drinking, gambling, smoking, dating. So an addiction is something that's validating us from the outside. And that's what I mean. So many of us are lost and we're looking for love. But in fact, the love that we're looking for is already within us.
this is kind of amazing. And actually, it does tie right into what we're going to be talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Is what's going on in the dating world with this sudden surge of people who are single and of marriageable age deciding that they are trans or bi or gender free or all this wide mix of different kinds of sexual orientations. And to me, that just makes the dating even more challenging and more complex than it ever has been before. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And we're living in this time of instant gratification, right? Every one of us, and I'm talking about people who are in the dating world, we've got applications, we've got apps that are helping us feel good about ourselves from the outside. But we are so empty in the inside. We are just so there's such a big void in us that's why we are consuming so many products and so many applications. And that's why you and I are doing this, because there's awareness that we have to spread this, that we have to share that we're a community of people who are struggling to fit in, struggling to find an identity, struggling to find meaning and purpose.
This is very true. And I think the point of contention that a lot of my audience has, is primarily women, is they feel like not only do they have to, find themselves and compete in the dating market against other women, now they
Hmm.
have to compete against these men that want to claim that they're women too. So it's creating a really complex and very disturbing state of mind in a lot of women. Do you
Hmm.
have you seen that play out at all in your business?
Well, so for me, I remember a time, and I'm talking about the time when I was an addict, I was a dating addict, where I was looking for validation from the outside. I was looking for love. And because you know what? I wanted, I always believed, and this is what we women are raised as, to believe that find love. Your identity is based on the number of children you have. It's on based, you have to get your university degrees. You have to have that perfect job. You have to be thin and skinny, but you also have this identity based on having a relationship. And relationship is, I'm talking about a man and a woman relationship
Right.
here, right? So a lot of us women are raised in that way. It's the system. It's not necessarily our parents, it's not necessarily our families, but it's people around us. It's what we read, it's what we consume. So everybody's telling us to be a good woman, to be the right woman, you must have a fairy tale ending. But hello, that's I mean, I know most of the people, most of the women I know, and I would say people I know, are struggling, are single, and they're like, you know what, sex is okay, but I'm not sure I want to have a relationship. And I hear this more and more. And this is again a journey, right? Like everybody's on this journey where we're looking for a happy ending. But here I am telling you that a happy ending is me myself. I am not looking for a man for a happy ending. My happy ending is with me.
Well, what
And
happens though, I mean, say a woman does, what it really is, the kind of the issue with a lot of women, and a lot of them are there, exactly what you're saying. But I also have, we have to consider that the African American community is the most religious demographic in the United States. And that's primarily the women. And so they're following what's the scriptures in the Bible, and that, mandates marriage and, children, and that's the way that you're supposed to live. So a
mhm,
lot of them trying to follow their religion, they want that in their life, and
mhm,
they're running square up against men who are not following it and who have all these very interesting non-plain heterosexual lifestyles.
yep,
And the women are like, like, well, what are we supposed to do?
mhm, mhm. So, as somebody who has been there, I mean, if you're talking about African American, my heritage is Indian. I'm born and raised in India. I had an arranged marriage. My parents had an arranged marriage. They're still married 45 years later,
Good
40 years
grief.
later. Exactly, right? So we're talking about very, very, very traditional. So for me to go in the dating market, it's like a shock where you're seeing all these men there's a lot of lying, there's a lot of married men out there. Then there's a lot of like men who are in relationships who are out there, and you're like, what is this? So, the most important thing that I learned, and I learned was that nobody can save me out from the outside. And, very, very important. It's what I also told myself is we attract who we are. So we always attract who we are and the lessons we need to learn from them.
See, I disagree with that. That's my thing is I think sometimes they don't it's not who we are that's attracting, it's who they are. They need to learn from us, and we're there in a role as a teacher. But
Absolutely.
that doesn't necessarily mean that they're who we are. I mean, sometimes it's the other person. And I think a lot of times women especially will use that phrase in a self-condemning way. Not to say that this is a growth position, but to say, well, that's why this happened to me and it's negative, and they're blaming themselves because they feel like there's something innately wrong with them, and that's why they attracted this broken, person who wants to use them, lie to them, manipulate them, trick them, game on them, and this kind of thing. So,
Well, I also I study human behavior. That's what I do, and I write about it. Right. So one of the things that I find really fascinating is that we women, and I'm talking, I would say about 90% of the women that I've come across, we women are our strength lies in being emotional. So we women have emotions as our strength. And then the second thing I find is that we women are more spiritually and consciously more self-aware,
mhm,
right? So we're which means that because of the nurturing part of our feminine side, the sympathetic side, the empathetic side, we are using those to take care of ourselves. And then we are sharing that with our families, our children, our spouses, if we have that. But what happens is, and this is from my research, what happens is the masculine energy, the male, the man, is not as evolved. So the men are still stuck in this bubble of being the providers. They are, and this is a pressure that they carry. So that's another topic that we can
true.
discuss, right? Where so they are not men are not connected to their emotions, and I'm talking about maybe 70% of the men out there. I'm not talking about the 30% who are very evolved. No. So, and but the 90% of us women who are in the dating market are meeting these 70% of the men, right? So the selection to choose from consciously aware men is very, very small. So where men are not emotionally mature, or what should I say, they're not connected emotionally, we women end up becoming their teachers, their nurturers, their mother figures, and it's a lot of pressure that we carry on ourselves.
Yes, it's a total burden, and, as you pointed out, with women being so evolved and wanting to take care of people, it's like a one-way trip. So they're not getting anything back, they're just giving, giving, giving to everybody. And,
Hmm.
so, a lot of women are depleted and depressed and anxious and all kinds of things, looking for this love that they're not getting back.
Well, they're not getting it back because the men that we meet are incapable of it. Most of them. I'm talking about most of them.
Right.
They are not. They just have no connections, and it becomes very, very difficult to have a relationship with somebody like that. I mean, you can have a relationship, but that means sacrificing your essence to be in a relationship. And I've done that, and I think a lot of us women have done that, where we become the saviors and we are trying to help our men, but but the men need to help themselves.
Ooh, honey,
So
yes.
so as teachers, as and we are teachers of each other. Our men teach us different things. They teach us, logical intelligence. They teach us ambition. They teach us the masculine side, right? So both the male energy and the female energy are needed. So I am saying that we need to work in unison. That's number one. So working in unison means that, you know helping each other, but we also have to teach our men So so what I would like to see is more men joining chat rooms like this, more women supporting our men to be emotionally aware, emotionally awake, enlightened. And yeah, that's where I am at.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think some women want to do that. I'm not one of them. I'm like, go over there and do it yourself. But
Well,
when they come here, they tend to be. We do get a few guys that come into the channel who are here to learn and kind of open minded, but
mhm,
the rest seem to be very antagonistic and resentful of the
mhm,
fact that women, expect this kind of emotional connection to them, and they don't want to do it. They want to stay stuck in the traditional male role of being stoic and the provider, and they really resent women who don't stick to those old traditions and want them to be something else. They are
mhm,
very, very angry about it.
mhm. That's really sad because, first of all, anger is not, you don't want to date anybody who's angry. That's detrimental and self-harming because, energy is contagious, and we are a product of the energy we have. We are a product of the energy, the extended energy. So it's not just your and my energy, it's also the energy of people we're surrounded by, right? And we're learning. So I know, I hear all of you, and I am very, very empathetic to the dating world. But along with you, I also want to know the solution to dating.
Right. Yeah, I mean, real seriously, if there could be something, I don't know, something that just eliminated it, which I guess would be the arranged marriage, but I don't know that that's the answer either. That kind of
Well, my
scares
parents
me.
are still to, my parents are still together.
Wow. And did they end up falling in love with each other? Is that how it worked?
Well, they kind of, so they met for the first time at their engagement party, and then they met for the second time at their wedding ceremony.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so very, very extreme. But the thing is, um my ancestors were refugees into from Pakistan to India. So my family had a lot of struggle, financial struggle. So the thing that I also wonder is, my father was always the provider, so he was bringing the money, and my mother was the homemaker, which she also did not want. She wasn't very ambitious. She was ambitious for my father, but she did not necessarily want to work from outside the home. um, and that worked out very well for them, right? Like, it was very traditional roles, and there was no need for my mother to work financially, so because my dad was supporting all of us. But what is interesting is that now, this present time, I'm here, I'm a full-time single mother, I'm divorced, I am rebelling against my tradition, my culture, and I am very ambitious. Like, so very different from my mother's generation, right? Like, here
Right.
I am, I've always been ambitious, and I know a lot of our listeners can relate to that. How do we deal with the ambitious personality that we are, but also how do we combine it with our nurturing personality?
It's been a struggle because you get condemned for being. It's on one hand, the guys want, they don't want the burden of trying to do it all themselves. They complain about that. And but then if the woman is, they do want the traditional situation and they end up divorced, then they're mad that she gets half. But I mean, she's earned half by, supporting you and your kids. I mean, what are you talking about? So it's like they want the best of both worlds, and for the women to get nothing. That's
Yeah,
essentially what I keep hearing.
and that is the truth, right? But the thing is, it's like an epidemic. It's like, it's spreading and it's spreading, but we're not able to contain it. And and what I find, what I have, I'm currently in the dating market as well. So what I have is, my dating profile is, and I find this very interesting, I have a very intelligent profile, which means I do not get a lot of matches. And it's very, very interesting. So if I just put my pictures, my boobs, my hair, my eyes, I get a lot more matches. But the minute I put on something intelligent, the number of matches I get, which is, of course, the first step to talking to somebody and connecting and possibly going on a date, is I don't get as many matches. So I often ask myself, do I need to take out how smart I am? Do I need to be like, do I just show my sexy side? Do I not show my brilliant side? Do I not show my ambitious side? So where do we find that combination, and what is the right combination?
Well, then you throw that in there that, you only want a heterosexual man and you don't want a guy who's bi, or, these all these other fancy things. And it's, we had a discussion here a couple of months ago, and about these bi guys, and I can't tell you how many came to the channel angry that they would be dismissed as a possible suitor by the women. They're now called biphobic or transphobic and all the stuff. And it's like, don't women have the right to determine who is the best choice for them, no matter what? I mean, if she's lesbian, if she's, whatever, she decides who she wants to be with, not you. What is going on there? I mean, have you had run into guys who try to argue with you about why you should be with them, or you should want them, or they should have a chance?
Well, so actually, this is very interesting. You bring this up. So a few weeks ago, I matched with somebody, and and again, for me, it's rare to have a match. I'm too sexy and I'm too brilliant, right? So, well, that's where we women are. We're struggling with our sexiness, and we're struggling with our brilliance. We're struggling to fit in. So so I connected with this guy, and he's like, first 5 minutes of chatting, and he's like, oh, just to tell you, I'm bisexual. So I said, okay. I was very like laissez-faire about it, because just because I'm matching with somebody doesn't mean that I'm going to go meet him. Number one. Number two, is there going to be enough chemistry to take it further, right?
Right.
So just chatting. So then he's like, so are you going to unmatch me now that you know I'm bisexual? And I thought to myself, I said, does that happen to you? He's like, yes. The minute I tell women that I'm bisexual, they unmatch me without explanation. So I thought that was really, really interesting that he said that to me. And I said, so I said to him, I said, I'm really sorry that you've had this experience with women. And, and I said, like, remember something, how we judge others is exactly how we judge ourselves. So how we judge somebody who's bisexual is exactly like how we're judging ourselves, because we just think of when we hear that somebody's bisexual, our fear comes out, right? We start wondering, and we start questioning our own sexuality. So I ended up talking to this guy, and I said, no, I'm not going to unmatch you. Like I don't even get any matches. So we started talking. It was a human to human connection. And it wasn't, there was no romance, or at least it didn't happen at that time. We haven't picked it up. But the thing is, when we are desperately looking for love, I find it eludes us even more. And as human beings, we need to be more empathetic to others. We need to be more accepting to others. Yes, of course, we women are free to choose whoever we want, and our men are free to choose whoever they want. That's not the point. But as human to human, we need to share a little bit more kindness, a little bit more empathy. Somebody is bisexual, it's their choice, right? Somebody is straight, it's their sexual choice. We all have free will, we all have free choice. But it's very, very important to just be a little bit kind, to say, you know what? No, I am not going to judge you because you're bisexual, or no, you know what? You're transsexual. That doesn't mean that you're not a good human being.
Well, that's all true, but by the same token, that doesn't mean that I want to get involved with you on a romantic level. If
That
I'm looking for, I'm on the site and I'm looking for someone that I want to marry and have children with, and, be Mrs. So and so with, or whatever. And I don't think most women want to have someone who, they're out with him and he's looking at the men as much as he's looking at the women. They want a guy who thinks that she's gorgeous and he wants to be with her. And so it creates a real conflict. I mean, what you're saying is true. You do want to have that humanity, express your humanity to other people in a certain sense, but you do have the right to say, well, this is where it ends, and now
absolutely.
you're not, you're not going to cross this fence over here. We'll
Yeah,
just be, casual acquaintances or whatever. I'm not going to get romantically involved with you.
that's perfect. But also, if you have the right to say no to somebody who is bisexual, somebody who's bisexual should also have the space in the sense, the emotional space to say, you know what, I want to be honest with you, I'm actually bisexual, but I did not put it in my profile because I don't get a lot of matches. So, we have to create, as Dr. Brene Brown says it, right? Like, we need to give a space, a safe space to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is the key to connecting emotionally, and of course through emotions we women connect sexually and mentally, and everything. So it's very important for us women to also give space and be less judgmental.
Hmm. I think some of the stuff that's happening, you keep reading about guys, well, basically, I guess they're murdering the trans women, the men who are passing as women. And they get involved with them and they don't know that it's a woman. They don't know that it's a man. And in many of those instances, they claim that the person did not do what you just said and be open and say, "This is who I am. This is what I am," to let that guy make a choice. They removed his choice, and so the guy feels manipulated and controlled, and he reacts with violence. And I'm not saying reacting with violence is the way to go, because now it's two lives over. He's in prison for the rest of his life, and this other person's dead. But I do think there needs to be some kind of discussion about what you just expressed. This is who I am, and let that other person have the opportunity to decide if that's something that they want to, a path they want to walk down or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then, this is where consciously aware women come in, right? Where we're being less judgmental and a little bit more accepting. And I'm not saying accepting such men and going against your own values. That is not what I'm suggesting at all. We all have free will. We all have the right to choose who we want to be with.
Agreed. Well, I wanted to talk about a survey. um, I ran into the survey. It was done in Canada last year. The results were published in 2018. uh,
Yay, Canada!
And so I was very curious about it. So I ran a similar one. I changed some of the questions though, um, on my website, and they got 1,000 responses. I got 378, and I called it "Singles Dating in the Trans World." And to get, I get the ages of the people and the ethnicity and that kind of thing. I don't think they did ask that in the first survey, but what I found was interesting was how many people, uh, most of the people who took the survey identified as heterosexual, binary women, or binary man. That means, for those of you who are not familiar with the new lingo, that means that you were born a woman or born a man. And they considered themselves to be heterosexual. Let me see. I wish I had a color printer. This black and white doesn't really do it justice. But the comments were very interesting, and people saying things like, they seem to resent the terminology that, they want to be gender free. They don't want us to say, like woman and man. They want to say female or male. And, there's no
Mhm.
such thing as gender. I mean, I have like 5 pages of these are comments admonishing me, or, about using this terminology they felt like is wrong. And I'm like, look.
Well, you're just the researcher in this, and what's really interesting, Deborah, is that when the Canadian survey was done, it was done by a group of researchers,
Right.
whereas you are doing, and they got 1,000 responses, whereas you're doing it as one person on your website, and you have almost 400 responses. That's a lot. Give it up for Deborah.
Yeah, I was kind of, kind of amazed, but I'm going to have to take some time to read through all the responses that people made. But, in general, there seems to be a lot of disagreement, even if people don't really speak it publicly, because of the negative labels that they get assigned, like, biphobic and transphobic. It seems like most of the people just really are not down with that, dating somebody who's not a man or not a woman. So I it creates a real interesting dynamic where, you say, we should be a little bit more accepting and open-minded, but where does that end? Where does your open-mindedness has to end so that you're protecting yourself and what you believe in? There's a balancing act that has to take place there. And I feel like it's really disheartening to find people that want to attack and bully people who don't believe as they do. And that's
Mhm,
what we're running into with, a lot of the single ladies out here.
mhm, mhm. And that is wrong. Like trolling, bullying, it's not kosher at any time, whether it's for sexuality or it's for something else. Like I'm fat shamed all the time, and it's interesting. There are other fat people who fat shame me.
What?
Yes, exactly. So, like I find it very, very fascinating that how are people who are themselves not, are themselves fat come and tell me how fat I am and how much weight I should lose. And I'm like, there's something wrong with social media has given us free will and free speech, but we also have to be respectful to everybody else around us.
Huh, that is so bizarre to me. Um, you would think that confuses me. You see, I'm stuttering for words. I'm like, what? How
Yeah,
does that?
well, that's a topic for another discussion, though, right? Like being fat and dating. I mean, a lot of women are like, we are right there, right? Like you're too fat, you don't fit in, or you're not the perfect woman, and you're like, what do I do? Am I worthy of love? Am I like not worthy of love? Like, what do I do?
Oh boy. Well, I used to know a guy who would get with women, and this was his thing. He would get with a woman he liked that was slim, and then he would feed her until she was about a size 18. That's what he liked. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just go and get somebody? You know what I mean? But that was the approach he took. And he just, would overfeed all of his girlfriends until they like got, a lot much larger size, and then he'd be happy.
Oh, oh well. I mean, and again, being fat or being ambitious or being loud, these are not things that this is who we are. In this world where we live in right now, we're talking about authenticity, right? Sexy Brilliant works because of authenticity. I mean, I'm the same person on screen, I'm the same person off screen. And then here we are where in this conversation we're talking about people past trying to, like transphobia and biphobia, right? And but people who are like that are just being themselves. They are talking about authenticity. So it comes down to, again, we have to be more accepting and less judgmental. I'm not saying that you go and date any of these people. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But I'm talking about being more accepting.
Okay, so in a situation like that, let's just say, you're on a dating site, and a woman runs into a guy like the one that you did, who's, admits openly that he's bi. And she might not say outright, if she's talking to him or whatever. And then he says, well, let's go out.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want to go out with a guy who's bi. She wants to go out with a guy who's straight. So what
Mm-hmm.
would you recommend that she say? Or how should she, you know, let him know that that's not the path she wants to go down?
I mean, for me, if this was me, right? Like I would, first of all, I would go out with him. I would not judge somebody for being bisexual. That's me, but that's me. But what really works is honesty. So if you do not want to date somebody who doesn't fit into your box, your labels, then you need to tell him that, and say, I do not date bisexual men, and that's it. And it's up to him how he takes the message. But it's really, really important for us to be true to ourselves. So, which means for somebody who's in this situation, always be true to yourself. Always stand up for yourself, because if you don't stand up for yourself, which comes from what you want and what you need and how well you know yourself, you're never going to be able to say no to somebody. You're never going to be able to say, stand up for yourself. So self-knowledge is sexy.
I got you. Yeah, that's how I feel about, like I'm not gonna go out with somebody who's married. I'm not gonna go out with somebody who's got like a couple of young kids with the baby mama situation. I'm not gonna go out with somebody who's a smoker. I had asthma as a child, and my lungs that's still my weak point. So I sick breathing in any kind of smoke is horrible for me. Things like that, I have to have my bottom lines, and
Yeah,
that's it.
those are your boundaries, and
Right.
boundaries are really sexy and really brilliant, because you know what, that's what defines us, right? like like I wrote about this. Well, I was doing a business deal. I was doing a negotiation with somebody, and the producer came on to me. He made a sexual pass at me.
What?
I
At a
know.
business meeting?
In a business meeting, right? And I'm like, the first thing is like, what do I do? Like, do I, so the question is, what do I do in that situation? But it always comes back to how well we know ourselves and how willing we are to speak up. So, and this is a public blog that I have, and I talk about boundaries in business. And the thing is, you always have to remove yourself from that situation and say, you know what, just because somebody's making a sexual pass at me doesn't mean that I have to say yes. And it's the same thing. Just because a transgender person is coming on to me, or wants a date with me, doesn't mean that I have to say yes. Saying no is really, really something that we must all do for ourselves. It's setting boundaries.
Gotcha. Okay, let me see if we have any questions from the ladies in here. So,
How many people online right now with us?
115 in YouTube in the
And
chat room.
are they all women?
Hard to say.
Say hi,
I know
guys.
some of the names I recognize and they are women, but some of the others I don't know.
Say hi to us, and find me #sexybrilliant.
Oh yeah, I was looking to see if anyone had any questions,
Yeah.
and then I wanted to get those answered, and then definitely give you time to let everyone know where they can find you, and
Oh, for
you
sure.
know
Yeah.
and communicate with you after the show. But it looks like uh oh, someone says, have you ever been harassed by a transgender person? They don't like to hear no.
Have I ever been harassed? So one of the things that I do is, we all get harassed, we all get bullied, we all get trolled, right? Um, the one thing that really works for me is separation of my ego. Now I have a name for my ego. That's another story, another time, Deborah. Okay.
Like, okay, your ego is named Barbara.
No, it's Claudia. You were so close.
Oh, that is hilarious.
so so when I get trolled, and I get fat shamed, I get called all sorts of names. I mean, I talk about my addiction very openly, so people judge me all the time, right? So one of the things that I realize is that, first, I always have to be authentic with myself. I always have to be true to myself and my purpose, which is sexy brilliant. But when somebody trolls me, when somebody is nasty to me, I have to step back and say, why is this person doing this? So instead of answering back from like my ego or from the negative side of me, I try to do my best with self-awareness, do my best to answer back with kindness. So yes,
Mm,
we all get trolled all the time. Don't worry, not just you, me too.
gotcha. Okay, let me look and see if I see anything else in here. Oh, you're getting some kudos. They're saying this guest is good.
It's Claudia.
Oh, Claudia's. We should have put Claudia on the agenda.
Next week.
Okay. Well, I don't see any questions, but I do want to, and I did tell you people at the top of the show, she came on here bravely, even though she wasn't feeling that great. But oh, here's a question here. How do we avoid men that claim to be women? We want to know how do we avoid them?
Um, how do we avoid men who claim to be women? I have never had that situation, but I think this is where common sense and being, common sense comes in. If you, and this is where our inner instinct comes in, right? If you think something is wrong, you are probably right.
Hmm.
So this is what I want to say, that our inner voice is always talking to us. And the more we listen to it, the sexier and the louder it gets. So when you're swiping on somebody, and if you're looking at their profile, or if you're looking at their bio, and you're swiping left or right and something is off, go with that feeling that says that something is off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that question came from a guy.
Mm,
I agree with you because I think also another thing that I've noticed is that regular women, we like put together nicely and everything, but it's not like we stepped off of a runway. We
mhm,
don't look like that. And
mhm,
there's some guys who, when they want to do their imitation of femaleness, they pick uh the stereotypes. I guess that's the best way to do it. And so you're looking, you see women, and they just look regular, right? And then all of a sudden, here's this person that's like, so picture perfect. Everything is, the makeup is just on hit. Everything is just beautiful. They're posed, all the stuff. Okay, you need to be a little suspicious.
yes,
Okay,
that's common sense.
yeah, because real women don't. That's not us. We do things a little different. We're gonna
Yeah,
throw that makeup on and be out the door in like 10, 15 minutes. It's not gonna be looking like that. So
yeah,
that, I think, that's, if I were a guy, I would be looking at that and be like, I don't know about this. That would raise my curiosity.
yeah.
Okay, here's another one. What are the biggest risks on dating by men?
The biggest risks, like where?
Risks. RISK, risks on dating by men. And if you don't have an answer for that, that's okay, because we have a video. This person must not be familiar with the channel. We did a video on this, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And there's a guy who's bi in out of Atlanta who I used a clip of one of his videos with his permission and talked about it. So that
Yeah.
information is available on the YouTube channel already.
Mhm, mhm.
But do you have any tips just off the top of your head?
Well, you know what? One cannot be too careful, whether it's bi men or straight men. And you know what? I would rather somebody tell me that they're bi than somebody lie to me, because a lot of men, because there's so much taboo and so much stigma associated with being bi or trans or whatever, that men are forced to lie. And I've seen this personally as well, where somebody is married and they're cheating on their spouses with other men, and I'm like, that's just horrifying, because you know what? That's more dangerous than a bi man.
Yeah, that is true. And they don't want to admit that that's what they're doing. We
Yes,
we
and
call it being on the down low. That's the phrase, the down low.
down low, yeah. But you
Hmm.
know what? This is where we women and people who are tuning in right now, today's we're doing this together, but this is something that we want to use for the rest of our lives, when we are going back to the dating world, and then when we are going back to the married world, or for some of us it's the first time we're going to be married, which will happen. You have to keep hope for that. Is we want to give space to everybody, to our partners, to be open, to be honest, to be vulnerable, because that's where the emotional bond comes in, that's where the growth comes in. And when we go into marriage, it's not just for the short term. We're in marriage for long term.
Right.
And as we go through our relationship, we change as people, we change as human beings, our sexual needs change as well. So it's really, really important to have an open mind, to be empathetic, and to have a long term vision.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find out some more information about the work that you do, and perhaps interact with you if they have a question they were too shy to ask here. How they can get in contact with you.
Absolutely. So, my name is Davina Kaur, and I'm the founder of the Sexy Brilliant Global Revolution. And like I've mentioned, it comes across from my addiction to dating. So the best place to find me is, of course, sexybrilliant.com. But I'm also very, very big on social media. So if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, I'm everywhere. And it's a big community. I also have some free courses on YouTube. So do check that out. One of them is called The Power of Being Single, because I truly believe that there is power in being single. And
Yes.
yes,
Yes, my
thank you.
sister.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm going to send you the link after. So please share it with everybody here. And, a relationship is formed between two equals. So while you're waiting for your partner to come along, while you're waiting for the right man or the right woman or the right transgender person, focus on yourself and focus on completing your own self, because the more whole you are, the more complete you are, the easier it is to find somebody like that, because we do attract who we are. So that's what it is. And most importantly, I wrote a book which is called Too Fat, Too Loud, Too Ambitious.
Oh boy. Is it on Amazon?
It's going to be on Amazon soon. It's not released yet, but sign up for the newsletter so that you're the first one to find out about it. And it's sexybrilliant.com.
Okay, I will put a link down in the show description down below the page here. Thank you so much and feel better, okay?
Thank you so much for having me, Deborah.
Not a
Thank,
problem. I'll talk to
thank
you
you,
soon.
everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.